Kyle Morrison stood at the entrance of Station Harmony, his bag slung over his shoulder and his heart beating fast. The station was huge, bigger than anything he had ever seen. Metal corridors stretched in every direction, and aliens of different shapes and colors walked past him. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like nothing he could describe. This was real. He was really going to live with an alien. He had signed up for the interspecies exchange program 6 months ago. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Now standing here with butterflies in his stomach, he wondered if he had made a mistake. But Kyle had never been the type to back down from a challenge. He was an engineer. He solved problems. How hard could living with an alien be? A human man with dark hair walked up to him. "You must be Kyle. I'm Danny Chen. I work in communications here." Danny smiled and shook his hand. "Welcome to the madhouse." "Thanks," Kyle said. "I'm a little nervous, to be honest," Danny laughed. "Everyone is at first, but you'll get used to it. The aliens are actually pretty cool once you figure them out. Well, most of them." He picked up one of Kyle's bags. "Come on, I'll show you to your quarters. Your roommate is already there." They walked through the station's long hallways. Kyle saw more aliens than humans. There were tall ones, short ones that floated and ones that crawled. The station was like a zoo, except all the animals could talk and had jobs. "So what species is my roommate?" Kyle asked. "Korathi," Danny said. "They're warrior types, very serious about honor and tradition. Your roommate's name is Zixara, but I heard she goes by Zara." "A warrior?" Kyle felt his nervousness grow. "Is she dangerous?" "Nah, not really. Just formal. They take things seriously, very seriously." Danny stopped at a door marked with symbols Kyle couldn't read. "Here we are. Good luck, man. Call me if you need anything." Danny left and Kyle stood alone outside the door. He took a deep breath and pressed the entry button. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the quarters were split into 2 styles. One side looked human, with soft furniture and warm lights. The other side was harder, with metal surfaces and strange equipment. And standing in the middle of the room was his roommate. Zara was tall. Very tall, at least 7 feet. Her body was covered in what looked like armor, but Kyle quickly realized it was her skin. Plates of blue-green shell covered her arms, legs, and torso. They caught the light and shimmered like oil on water. Her face was angular, with large eyes that looked almost cat-like. She stood perfectly straight, her hands clasped behind her back. "You are Kyle Morrison," she said. It wasn't a question. Her voice was deep and clear. "Yeah, that's me." Kyle tried to smile. "You must be Zara. Nice to meet you." "I am Zixara of the Korathi." She didn't smile back. "I have been assigned as your partner in this exchange. I will do my duty with honor." Duty, honor. Kyle was starting to understand what Danny meant about serious. "Great," he said. "I'm looking forward to working with you." Zara showed him around the quarters. She explained where everything was and what rules they needed to follow. Kyle tried to pay attention, but he kept getting distracted by her armor. It changed color slightly when she moved, shifting from blue to green to hints of purple. It was beautiful, actually. The day passed quickly. They ate dinner together in the station's cafeteria. Zara ate something that looked like dried plants, and Kyle had something that was supposed to be chicken, but didn't quite taste right. They didn't talk much. Zara seemed uncomfortable with small talk, and Kyle didn't know what to say to a 7-foot alien warrior. When evening came, Kyle felt tired. Space travel always wore him out. He grabbed his bag and headed toward one of the 2 bedrooms in their quarters. It was small but had a bed, a desk, and a window showing the stars outside. He had just put his bag down when he heard footsteps behind him. Zara stood in the doorway, her large frame filling the space. She looked confused. "Why are you in this chamber?" she asked. Because it's my bedroom," Kyle said, confused himself. "This is where I sleep." Zara's armor suddenly shifted to a darker color. Her eyes narrowed. "You intend to sleep separately?" "Well, yeah. That's kind of how it works. You have your room, I have mine. This is not acceptable." Zara's voice got harder. "Korathi roommates share sleeping quarters. It is tradition. It is how we build trust," Kyle blinked. "You want to share a bedroom?" "It is required," Zara said. "Roommates who do not share sleep space are not true partners. They are strangers. Enemies even." "Whoa, hold on." Kyle held up his hands. "I'm not your enemy. I just need my own space to sleep. It's a human thing. We like privacy." "Privacy." Zara said the word like it tasted bad. This is the human excuse for mistrust. It's not about trust, Kyle tried to explain. Humans just sleep better alone. It's how we're built. Zara's armor turned darker, with hints of red appearing near her shoulders. Kyle didn't know what that meant, but it didn't look good. You refuse to honor Korathi tradition? I'm not refusing anything. I'm just trying to explain about. You reject me as a partner. Zara's voice was cold now. This is a great insult. I will report this to my commander. Wait, can we just talk about this? Kyle felt panic rising. This was his first day, and he was already causing some kind of diplomatic incident. But Zara had already turned and walked away. She went to the other side of the quarters and sat down on a meditation mat. Her armor was now mostly red with black patterns Kyle hadn't seen before. She closed her eyes and didn't move. Kyle stood in his bedroom doorway, completely lost. What just happened? He had just wanted to go to sleep in his own bed. How did that turn into an insult? He pulled out his communication device and called Danny. Hey man, what's up? Danny answered. I think I already messed up, Kyle said. Zara is mad at me because I won't share a bedroom with her. There was a pause. Then Danny laughed. Oh man. Yeah, I heard about that. The Korathi are big on shared sleeping. It's like their main bonding thing. What do I do? I don't know, dude. Maybe find a compromise? You're the engineer. Engineers are good at that stuff, right? Kyle looked over at Zara, still sitting perfectly still in meditation. Her armor was still showing angry colors. He sighed. This was going to be harder than he thought. He spent the next hour reading everything he could find about Korathi culture on his datapad. The more he read, the worse he felt. Shared sleeping was huge for them. It wasn't romantic or anything like that. It was about trust and honor. Refusing to sleep near someone meant you thought they were dangerous or dishonest. In Korathi society, only criminals slept alone. Great. His roommate thought he was treating her like a criminal. Kyle lay in his bed staring at the ceiling. On his first day, he had managed to insult his roommate and possibly damage relations between humans and an entire alien species. That had to be some kind of record. From the main room, he could hear nothing. Zara was still meditating. He wondered if she would meditate all night. He wondered if she ever slept. He wondered if he should apologize, though he wasn't sure what he was apologizing for. Tomorrow, he decided. Tomorrow he would figure this out. He would talk to Zara properly and make her understand. They were both reasonable beings. They could work this out. But as he finally drifted off to sleep, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was going to get worse before it got better. Kyle couldn't sleep again, but this time it was different. His mind was racing with ideas. He kept thinking about the problem from every angle. How could two people share space but still have privacy? How could someone be close but not too close? At 3 a.m, he sat up in bed. He grabbed his datapad and started drawing. Lines appeared on the screen as his fingers moved quickly. He drew walls, doors, and special fields. He drew beds and windows. He was designing something new. When morning came, Kyle had sketches of a completely redesigned bedroom. He was excited but nervous. Would Zara think it was a good idea? Would it even work? He found Zara in the main room doing her morning meditation. He waited until she opened her eyes. I have an idea, he said. Can I show you? Zara stood and came to look at his datapad. Kyle showed her the drawings. See, the idea is to redesign our bedroom. We would share the same room but each have our own sleeping area. There would be a force field between us. It could be see-through or private depending on what we need. We would be together but we would each have our own space. Zara studied the drawings carefully. Her armor shifted through several colors. Kyle couldn't read what she was thinking. This is not traditional, she finally said. I know, but neither of us are in traditional situations. We're doing something new. Maybe we need a new solution. The force field, Zara said. Would it block all sensation? No, you could adjust it. You could feel the other person's presence. Temperature, movement, sound. But you could also make it private when you need to. Zara's armor shifted to a thoughtful purple color. This might work, but we would need permission to modify the quarters. I'll ask Commander Brooks, Kyle said. Will you help me with the design? You know more about Korathi needs than I do. For the first time, Zara's armor showed a warm yellow color. Yes, I will help. Commander Brooks approved the project. This is exactly what the exchange program is about, she said. Finding creative solutions. You have 3 days and a small budget. Make it work. Kyle and Danny went to the station's engineering bay to gather materials. They collected force field generators, wall panels, lighting systems, and control interfaces. Danny helped carry everything back to Kyle's quarters. "This is a lot of work for a bedroom," Danny said. "It's worth it," Kyle replied. "Besides, if this works, it could help other mixed-species roommates." Lisa came by to offer advice. "Make sure you include elements from both cultures," she said. "This should feel like both of your spaces, not just a human room with alien features." Kyle and Zara worked together for 3 days straight. They removed the old walls and installed new ones. They set up the force field generators and tested them over and over. Kyle taught Zara how to use human tools. Zara taught Kyle about Karathi's spatial harmony principles. At first, they worked in awkward silence, but slowly they started talking. Kyle told Zara about growing up on Earth, about camping trips with his family where they shared tents but had separate sleeping bags. Zara told him about Karathi family nests where dozens of relatives would sleep together, their armor glowing in the dark. "It sounds beautiful," Kyle said. "It was," Zara agreed. Her armor showed colors of nostalgia. "I miss it sometimes. Space stations are lonely." "Yeah," Kyle said. "I get that. I miss home too." On the second day, other station residents started stopping by to watch their progress. Aliens of different species were curious. Some offered suggestions. A few even asked if Kyle and Zara could help with their own quarters. Zara seemed surprised by the attention. "I did not expect others to care about our problem," she said. "Everyone has problems adjusting to new situations," Kyle said. "We're all trying to figure out how to live together." By the third day, the room was almost complete. They had created a space that was truly unique. The room had 2 sleeping alcoves, each customized for its occupant. Kyle's side had soft bedding and warm lighting. Zara's side had a harder sleeping platform and the harmonic sound resonators that Karathi found soothing. Between the 2 alcoves was the force field. It could be adjusted from completely transparent to completely opaque. It could be set to allow sound through or to block it. It could even be programmed to respond to distress signals, becoming transparent if either person needed help. But the room also had shared elements. The walls displayed images that both Kyle and Zara had chosen together. There was a common area for Zara's armor maintenance and Kyle's reading. The ceiling could project stars from both their home worlds. Dr. Foster came to inspect the work. He walked around the room studying every detail. "This is remarkable," he said. "You've created something that honors both your psychological needs. The force field gives privacy while maintaining presence. It's brilliant." Commander Thuran also visited. His large frame barely fit through the door. He examined the room in silence for several minutes. Kyle held his breath, waiting for judgment. Finally, Thuran's armor shifted to an impressed violet color. "This is innovative. You have found a third path, neither fully Karathi nor fully human. This is honorable." Zara stood straighter. Her armor blazed with pride. That night, they tried the new arrangement for the first time. Kyle went to his alcove. Zara went to hers. They activated the force field at medium transparency. Kyle could see Zara's silhouette but couldn't make out details. He could hear the soft sounds of her breathing and the quiet hum of her armor. "Good night, Zara," he said. "Rest well, Kyle," she replied. Kyle lay in his bed, in his own private space, but he wasn't alone. He could sense Zara nearby. It was strange at first, but not uncomfortable. Actually, it felt kind of nice, like having a friend in the next tent at summer camp. He slept better that night than he had since arriving at the station. In the middle of the night, Kyle had a nightmare. He was back at the hull breach, but this time he couldn't reach Zara. He couldn't save her. He woke up suddenly, his heart racing. The room's lighting shifted. It became softer, more calming. The colors on the walls changed to soothing blues and greens. Kyle realized Zara had adjusted the settings. Her armor must have sensors that detected his distress. "Are you well?" Zara's voice came through the force field. "Yeah, just a bad dream. Thanks for the lighting." "That is what roommates do," Zara said. Kyle could hear the smile in her voice. The next morning, they ate breakfast together. Other residents stopped by to see the completed room. Word had spread through the station about their project. Aliens of different species wanted to see what they had built. A young Karathi named Velix was particularly interested. "This is amazing," they said. "I wish we had something like this in the Warrior Academy. It would have made training much easier." Lisa brought representatives from the cultural exchange program. They took pictures and measurements. "We want to add this to our standard room designs," she said. "The Morrison-Zixara protocol." "That's a bit formal," Kyle laughed. "How about the shared space protocol?" "I like that better," Zara agreed. Commander Brooks called them to her office that afternoon. "You two have done something special here," she said. "You've shown that compromise doesn't mean one side wins and the other loses. It means both sides work together to create something new." "We couldn't have done it separately," Kyle said. "We needed each other's input." "That is the truth," Zara added. "Kyle understood my needs even when I could not explain them well. He saw past the surface problem to the deeper need." Brooks smiled. "That's a valuable skill. I'm putting you both up for a station commendation." Walking back to their quarters, Kyle felt good. Really good. A week ago, he thought this assignment would be a disaster. Now he had created something that might help people across the galaxy. "Thank you," Zara said suddenly. "For what?" "For not giving up. Another human might have requested a transfer. But you stayed. You worked to understand me." "Well, you're worth understanding," Kyle said. "Plus, you're growing on me." Zara's armor showed warm colors. "You are growing on me as well. I am glad the program paired us together." "Me too," Kyle said. That evening, they sat in their newly designed room. The force field was set to low transparency, just enough for them to see each other's shadows. They talked about their days, their plans, their hopes for the future. It felt natural now, comfortable. Kyle realized something important. This wasn't just about solving a sleeping problem. This was about learning to see the world through someone else's eyes. It was about respecting differences while finding common ground. As he drifted off to sleep that night, Kyle thought about all the other species in the galaxy. How many other impossible problems were out there, waiting for someone to find the third path? How many other conflicts could be solved if people just tried to understand each other? These were good questions, and Kyle was beginning to think humanity might be uniquely suited to finding the answers. 3 weeks had passed since Kyle and Zara created their new sleeping arrangement. Life on the station had settled into a comfortable routine. They ate breakfast together, went to their separate jobs, and met for dinner most evenings. The modified quarters had become popular. Other mixed-species pairs visited to see how it worked. Some were already planning their own versions. Kyle was in the engineering bay when Danny came running in, laughing so hard he could barely speak. "What's so funny?" Kyle asked. "Dude, you need to check the station gossip channel," Danny managed to say between laughs. "The Korathi think you and Zara are planning to mate." Kyle nearly dropped his wrench. "What? I'm serious. Apparently there's this whole rumor going around the Korathi community. They think your shared bedroom is some kind of human pre-mating ritual." "That's ridiculous," Kyle said, but his face was turning red. "Where did they get that idea?" "No clue, man, but you should probably clear it up before it becomes a whole thing." Kyle finished his work quickly and headed back to his quarters. He needed to talk to Zara about this. But when he arrived, he found Zara already there, sitting on the couch. Her armor was cycling through colors he had never seen before, dark purple mixed with orange. He had learned to read her colors pretty well by now. This looked like embarrassment mixed with agitation. "Kyle," she said when she saw him, "we need to talk." "Is this about the rumor?" Kyle asked. "You know about it?" Zara's armor flashed brighter orange. "This is a disaster. My entire delegation thinks we are engaging in cross-species reproduction attempts." Kyle sat down, trying not to laugh. It wasn't funny, really, but the situation was so absurd. How did this even start? "My sibling Velix has been visiting the station," Zara explained. "They have been asking questions about human customs." Somehow information became confused. They learned that humans use the phrase sleeping together to mean both sharing a bed and reproductive activity. Felix told others, "And now the entire Korathi community believes we are attempting to mate." "Oh no," Kyle said. "That's a terrible translation error." "It gets worse," Zara continued. "Ambassador Krivosh has requested a meeting. He wants to discuss the groundbreaking implications of human Korathi reproduction." Her armor turned almost entirely purple now. "I have never been so embarrassed." Kyle ran his hand through his hair. "Okay, we need to fix this fast." The next morning, they were both called to a meeting with the ambassador. Krivosh was an elderly Korathi with silver armor and wise eyes. He sat across from them with Lisa and Dr. Foster present. I must say, Krivosh began, your courage is admirable. Attempting cross-species reproduction has never been done before. The scientific implications are enormous. Ambassador, Lisa interrupted gently. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Krivosh looked confused. Dr. Foster pulled up a presentation on the room's display screen. Let me explain human terminology. When humans say sleeping together, it can mean two different things depending on context. One is literal. One is euphemistic. Kyle wanted to disappear. This was the most awkward conversation of his life. Zara and I are roommates, Kyle said clearly. Just roommates. We share living space, but we are not romantically involved. We are definitely not trying to reproduce. But you share a sleeping chamber, Krivosh said. For Korathi, this only happens between family or potential mates. Humans are different, Zara said. Her armor was still showing embarrassment colors. I have learned this. Humans can be close friends without romantic intentions. They can share space without reproduction being involved. This is most unusual, Krivosh said, but he seemed to be understanding now. So your relationship is platonic? Exactly, Kyle said. We're friends. Partners in the exchange program. But that's all. The ambassador nodded slowly. I see. This is a significant cultural difference. We should inform the others, Lisa stood up. Actually, I think this misunderstanding reveals something important. We need better cultural education for everyone on the station. I propose we hold a formal presentation to explain human relationships and social structures. Dr. Foster agreed. I'll help prepare materials. This is a valuable teaching opportunity. 2 days later, the station's main auditorium was packed. Humans, Korathi, and several other species filled the seats. Kyle and Zara stood at the front, both nervous. Lisa had convinced them that they should present together, since they were the source of the confusion. Kyle spoke first. I know there have been rumors about my relationship with Zara. I want to make it clear we are friends. In human culture, friendship is a deep bond that doesn't involve romance or reproduction. Humans can care about each other, live together, and trust each other without being mates. Zara added, I have learned that humans have many types of relationships. Family, friends, romantic partners, work colleagues. Each type has different boundaries and expectations. This is different from Korathi culture, where relationships are more clearly defined. Dr. Foster showed slides explaining human social structures. He talked about how humans could have multiple close relationships with different people. He explained concepts like best friends and chosen family. The audience asked many questions. One Korathi asked, but how do you know who to trust if you don't share sleeping space with them? Humans build trust through time and shared experiences, Kyle explained. Sleeping near someone isn't required. We trust people who are honest with us, who help us, who stand by us when things are difficult. Another alien asked, can humans fall in love with roommates? Sometimes, Kyle admitted, but it's not automatic. Most roommates stay just friends. A young Korathi in the back raised their hand. It was Velix. I apologize, they said. I started this confusion. I was trying to understand human culture, but I misinterpreted what I learned. It's okay, Kyle said. These misunderstandings happen. That's why we're all here, to learn about each other. After the presentation, many aliens came up to talk to them. They were fascinated by human relationship flexibility. Some said their own cultures had similar concepts. Others found it completely strange. One elderly alien from a species Kyle didn't recognize said, your ability to form bonds without biological imperatives is remarkable. This explains much about human adaptability. When they finally got back to their quarters that evening, both Kyle and Zara collapsed on the couch. That was exhausting, Kyle said. Agreed, Zara said, but necessary. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Kyle started laughing. What is funny? Zara asked, this whole situation. A week ago, everyone thought we were going to have alien babies. Zara's armor flickered with colors that Kyle had learned meant amusement. It was absurd. Korathi and humans are not even biologically compatible, right? I mean, you have armor plating. I have skin. How would that even work? Now Zara was making the clicking sound that was her version of laughter. The mechanics would be impossible. They both laughed until their sides hurt. It felt good to laugh about it. I'm glad we are friends, Zara said when they finally calmed down. Me too, Kyle agreed, even if our friendship caused the most embarrassing diplomatic incident in station history. It will make a good story someday, Zara said. Yeah, Kyle said. When we're old and teaching new exchange program participants, we can warn them about translation errors. Felix visited the next day to apologize in person. They brought gifts as a Korathi gesture of regret. Kyle and Zara assured them that no lasting harm was done. Actually, Kyle said, your mistake led to an important teaching moment. Now everyone on the station understands human relationships better. And I learned much about careful translation, Felix said. I will be more precise in the future. Over the next few days, Kyle noticed a change on the station. Aliens were more comfortable asking questions about human culture. They weren't afraid of seeming ignorant. The reproduction confusion had broken down some barriers. Lisa stopped by their quarters one evening. I wanted to thank you both, she said. That presentation has made my job much easier. We're adding it to the standard orientation program. Happy to help, Kyle said. Though I hope we don't have to explain human mating rituals again anytime soon. No promises, Lisa laughed. Cultural exchange is full of surprises. After she left, Zara turned to Kyle. Do you ever regret joining this program? Kyle thought about it. A month ago, he would have said yes. Now things were different. No, he said. This has been challenging but good. I've learned a lot. About you, about Korathi culture, about myself. I feel the same, Zara said. Her armor showed warm, content colors. You have taught me that different does not mean wrong. It simply means different. That's a good lesson, Kyle agreed. As they prepared for bed that night in their specially designed room, Kyle reflected on how far they had come, from that awkward first night to now, when they could joke about embarrassing rumors and work together to teach others. They had become a real team, and somehow, through all the confusion and embarrassment, they had shown everyone on the station something important. Understanding takes work. It takes patience, humor, and willingness to admit when you don't know something, but it was worth it. 6 months had passed since Kyle first arrived at Station Harmony. He barely recognized the nervous engineer who had walked through those doors. That version of himself seemed like a different person. Now he walked through the station with confidence. He knew dozens of aliens by name. He understood 3 different languages, and most importantly, he had a true friend in Zara. They were eating breakfast when the message came through. Commander Brooks wanted to see them both immediately. It was marked urgent. Do you think we're in trouble? Kyle asked as they walked to her office. We have caused no incidents recently, Zara said. Her armor showed curious yellow patterns. Perhaps it is good news. Commander Brooks smiled when they entered. With her was Lisa and a hologram of a Galactic Coalition official that Kyle didn't recognize. Kyle Morrison and Zixara, Brooks began. The Coalition Council has been watching your progress. They're impressed with how you've handled cultural challenges and found innovative solutions. Thank you, Commander, Zara said formally. They want you to present at the annual Interspecies Summit, Brooks continued. It's the biggest gathering of species in the galaxy. Representatives from over 200 worlds attend. Kyle felt his stomach flip. Present what exactly? The Coalition official spoke through the hologram. Their voice was translated by computer. Your shared space protocol has become famous. Other stations are adopting it. But more than that, your approach to cultural conflict resolution is exactly what the galaxy needs. You will speak about your experiences and methods. This is a great honor, Zara said. Her armor blazed gold. When is the summit? Kyle asked. 3 weeks, Brooks said. You'll have time to prepare. Lisa will help you with the presentation. After the meeting, Kyle and Zara walked back to their quarters in stunned silence. We're going to speak in front of the entire galaxy, Kyle finally said. Yes, Zara replied. This is terrifying. Completely terrifying, Kyle agreed. Then they both started laughing. Over the next 3 weeks, they worked on their presentation. Danny helped with the visual materials. Dr. Foster gave them advice on explaining complex cultural concepts simply. Lisa coached them on public speaking. They practiced every night in their quarters. Kyle would present the human perspective, explaining how he had approached the sleeping arrangement problem. Zara would present the Korathi view, describing her initial confusion and eventual understanding. Remember, Lisa told them, you're not just talking about sleeping arrangements. You're talking about how different species can work together, how understanding and creativity can solve problems that seem impossible. The day finally came. They boarded a coalition diplomatic ship bound for Summit Station. The ship was huge, designed to carry representatives from dozens of species. Kyle met aliens he had only read about. Some were friendly, others kept to themselves. All of them were heading to the same place. Zara spent much of the journey meditating. Kyle knew she was nervous, though she would never admit it. He was nervous too. This was bigger than anything he had ever done. When they arrived at Summit Station, Kyle's jaw dropped. Station Harmony was big, but this place was massive. It was like a small city floating in space. Spires and domes stretched in every direction. Ships of all sizes came and went like bees around a hive. "This is incredible," Kyle whispered. "Agreed," Zara said. Even her armor seemed to shimmer brighter in amazement. They had one day before their presentation. They spent it walking around the summit, watching other presentations, meeting delegates from species neither had ever encountered. Some were humanoid, others were completely alien. One species existed as clouds of gas, another was a collective intelligence of small creatures that moved as one. "The galaxy is so much bigger than I imagined," Kyle said that evening. "Yes," Zara agreed, "and we are about to speak to representatives of all these worlds." "No pressure," Kyle laughed nervously. "Yeah, no pressure at all." The next morning they stood backstage in the main auditorium. Through the curtain, Kyle could see thousands of beings taking their seats. His hands were shaking. "I don't know if I can do this," he said. Zara placed a hand on his shoulder. Her armor was warm and steady. "We have already done the hard part. We lived it. Now we just tell our story." "You're right," Kyle took a deep breath. "Together?" "Together," Zara confirmed. The announcer called their names. They walked onto the stage. The lights were bright, making it hard to see the audience. Kyle was grateful for that. If he could see all those eyes watching him, he might panic. He began speaking. His voice shook at first, but grew stronger. "When I first met Zara, I thought our differences were too big to overcome. She wanted to share a sleeping space. I needed privacy. These needs seemed completely opposite," Zara continued. "I believed Kyle's refusal was an insult. In Korathi culture, refusing to sleep near someone means you don't trust them. I thought the exchange program had failed before it began." They took turns telling their story. The awkward first night. The formal complaint. The cultural seminar. The moment Kyle decided to engineer a solution instead of accepting defeat. The key was realizing that we didn't have to choose one culture's way or the other's way, Kyle explained. We could create a third way. A new way that honored both our needs. They showed images of their modified quarters, the force field that allowed presence without invasion, the shared elements and the private spaces. The audience leaned forward with interest. Zara spoke about what she had learned. Humans have a unique way of approaching problems. They don't just adapt to circumstances. They change the circumstances to fit their needs, but they do it while respecting others. And Korathi taught me about the importance of community and trust, Kyle added, about how being together can make us stronger. Now our room isn't just human or just Korathi. It's both. It's ours. They explained how the confusion about reproduction had led to better understanding, how embarrassment had turned into education, how every mistake became a chance to learn. Then came the question that changed everything. An old delegate from a species Kyle didn't recognize stood up. "You have shown remarkable problem solving. But tell me, what makes humans uniquely suited for this kind of work?" Kyle thought carefully before answering. "I don't know if humans are unique, but I think humans have one advantage. We come from a planet with thousands of different cultures. For all of human history, we've had to figure out how to live with people who think differently than us. We've had a lot of practice. We learned to see differences as puzzles to solve, not threats to fear," he continued. "We learned that understanding someone doesn't mean agreeing with them. It means respecting them enough to try." The audience was silent. Kyle worried he had said something wrong. Then Zara spoke. "I have worked with many species in my military career, but humans are different. They look at an impossible situation and their first thought is, how can we fix this? Not this cannot be done. They believe problems have solutions, and that belief often makes it true." The auditorium erupted in sounds. Different species showed approval in different ways. Some clapped, some clicked, some hummed. The sound was overwhelming. After their presentation, delegates swarmed them. Everyone wanted to talk about the shared space protocol. Some wanted to implement it on their stations. Others wanted advice on their own cultural conflicts. Ambassador Krivosh found them in the crowd. The council has a proposal, he said. They want to create a new program, the Cultural Bridge Initiative. Humans would work with other species to solve integration problems across the galaxy. They want you two to help lead it. Kyle and Zara looked at each other. This was huge. This would change everything. Can we think about it? Kyle asked. Of course, Krivosh said. Take your time. That evening, they sat on an observation deck watching stars stream past. The summit was still going on, but they needed a break. This is a big opportunity, Zara said. Yeah, Kyle agreed. We could help a lot of people or aliens. You know what I mean. Do you want to do it? Kyle thought about it. 6 months ago, he just wanted to be an engineer, fix things, keep his head down. Now he had helped change how species interact. He had shown that impossible problems sometimes just needed creative thinking. I think I do, he said, but only if you're with me. Zara's armor showed the warm gold he had come to recognize as happiness. I would be honored to continue working with you. They returned to Station Harmony as heroes. Their presentation had been recorded and was being shown across the galaxy. Other stations were implementing their protocols. Young aliens were studying their methods in school. Commander Brooks gave them new quarters in recognition of their achievement. Bigger space, better equipment. But Kyle and Zara asked to keep their old room. It felt like home now. Danny threw them a celebration party. Aliens of dozens of species attended. Everyone wanted to congratulate them. Even Commander Thrin came, his armor showing proud colors. You have brought great honor to the Korathi, he told Zara. And you, he said to Kyle, have shown the galaxy what humans can offer. Innovation, adaptability, hope. Later, Kyle stood in their quarters, looking at the medal they had been awarded. The Harmony Medal. He never imagined he would receive something like this. What are you thinking? Zara asked. I'm thinking about how scared I was on my first day. How sure I was that I had made a terrible mistake. The alarm rang through the ship like a warning bell. Captain Jake Morrison jumped from his chair and ran to the control room. His heart beat fast in his chest. Something was out there in the dark space and his ship had found it. What do we have? Jake asked as he reached the main screen. The young officer at the controls looked nervous. Sir, we picked up a signal. It's weak, but it's definitely there. About 2 miles from our position. Jake leaned closer to the screen. He could see a small shape floating in the darkness of space. It looked like a pod, the kind used for escaping from larger ships when something went wrong. Is anyone alive in there? Jake asked. The scanners show one life form, sir. Very weak readings. Commander Brandon Cole walked into the room. He was older than Jake, with gray hair and suspicious eyes. He had been in space for 20 years and had seen too many bad things. We should leave it alone, Brandon said. We don't know what's in that pod. Could be dangerous, Jake shook his head. There's someone alive in there, Brandon. Someone who needs help. Someone we don't know anything about, Brandon argued. This could be a trap. But Jake had already made up his mind. He had become a captain because he believed in helping people, even when it was risky. Bring the pod on board, he ordered. Take it to the cargo bay. Have Dr. Lisa Chen meet us there with a medical team. 20 minutes later, Jake stood in the cargo bay with Brandon, Lisa, and 3 security guards. The pod sat in the middle of the room, silent and dark. It was made of a strange metal that Jake had never seen before. The design was unlike any human technology. Lisa Chen stepped forward with her scanner. She was young for a doctor, only 32. But she was the best scientist on the ship. Her job was to study new forms of life if they ever found any. Today might be her first real test. The life signs are getting weaker, Lisa said, her voice worried. We need to open this now. Carefully, Brandon warned. His hand rested on his weapon. Lisa found the release mechanism and pressed it. The pod opened with a hiss of air. White mist poured out and everyone stepped back. When the mist cleared, they could see inside. A girl lay curled up in the pod. At least she looked like a girl. Her body was shaped like a human's, but her skin glowed with a soft blue light. Her hair was long and silver, floating around her head as if she was underwater. Strange marks covered her arms and neck like tattoos that moved and changed color. She's beautiful, Lisa whispered. The girl's eyes opened suddenly. They were completely black, with tiny lights inside them like stars. She saw the humans standing around her and fear filled her face. She tried to sit up but fell back down. She was too weak to move. Lisa moved closer slowly. her hands up to show she meant no harm. "It's okay," she said in a soft voice. "We want to help you." The girl didn't understand the words. She started making sounds in a language that no one had ever heard before. The sounds were musical, like singing and talking mixed together. "She's terrified," Lisa said. She reached out her hand toward the girl. That's when everything went wrong. The marks on the girl's skin suddenly glowed bright red. Energy shot out from her body like lightning. It hit one of the security guards and knocked him across the room. He crashed into the wall and didn't move. "Weapon!" Brandon shouted. All the guards raised their guns at the girl. "No." Lisa jumped in front of the girl. "She's scared. It was an accident. Look at her." The girl was shaking now, crying without making sound. Tears ran down her glowing face. She held up her hands in front of her, clearly trying to show she didn't want to fight. The red glow from her marks was fading back to blue. Jake looked at the injured guard. 2 other crew members were helping him up. He was alive, just unconscious. Jake then looked at the alien girl. She looked so young and so afraid. "Get her to the medical bay," Jake ordered. "Use restraints, but soft ones. Don't hurt her." "Sir, she attacked us," Brandon said angrily. "She defended herself because she was scared," Jake corrected. "Wouldn't you do the same?" Brandon's face was hard, but he nodded to the guards. They carefully lifted the girl from the pod. She didn't fight them. She seemed too tired and too scared to resist. As they carried her out, Jake noticed something about the marks on her skin. They weren't just decorations. They looked like they had been burned into her flesh on purpose, like a brand on an animal, like someone had marked her as property or as a criminal. "What have we gotten ourselves into?" Brandon asked quietly. Jake didn't have an answer. In the medical bay, Lisa worked carefully on the alien girl. She discovered that the girl's body was similar to a human's in many ways. She had a heart, lungs, and blood, but her blood glowed with the same blue light as her skin. Her bones were stronger than human bones, and those marks on her skin were not tattoos. They were scars that had been made with some kind of burning tool. "Someone did this to her on purpose," Lisa said, anger in her voice. "These marks are a punishment or a label." The girl was unconscious now, resting on the medical bed. Even in sleep, her face looked sad and afraid. Katie Williams, a young nurse, brought a blanket and covered the girl gently. "Poor thing," Katie whispered. "I wonder what happened to her." That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the girl in the medical bay. Who was she? Where did she come from? And why was she alone in that escape pod, marked like a criminal? He was in his office when the ship's computer made an alert sound. Jake looked at the screen and felt his blood go cold. The computer had been trying to translate the sounds the girl had made. It had finally found a few words it could understand. The translation appeared on the screen in simple English. "Please, mercy, don't kill." Jake sat back in his chair, his hands shaking. The girl had been begging for her life. She thought they were going to execute her. What kind of life had she lived where strangers finding her meant certain death? He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there was her homeworld. Somewhere out there, someone was probably looking for her. And Jake had a feeling that when they found her, things were going to get very dangerous for everyone on his ship. But he had made his choice. He would protect her. Whatever she had done, whatever those marks meant, she deserved a chance to tell her story. She deserved mercy. The question was, would mercy be enough?